Beep. Look out, a Kopis here. Kopis, one Kopis here. No, this is the new racing mini quad from Bing, Holybro. I've reviewed a few Holybro products and I've found them to be pretty damn good actually. The X1, man, that was a real beast, and it still puffs batteries to this day. But this is something a little bit different from Holybro. It's a stretched X, and what's that? Well, let's take a look in the box, and I'll tell you what a stretched X is. There you go. This is what's in the box. Now, this is still damp. I'm afraid my mat is still damp because of the drool, because this is just gorgeosity. This is a 300 grams of gorgeosity. I am just so delighted with the quality, with the build quality, with the engineering. They haven't done very much wrong at all with this quad. Now, of course, the thing is, this is not a cheap quad. So we're comparing it to the Wizard X220S. It's like, well, you can't compare it. It's apples and oranges. This is a polished product with branded components, well designed to a specification. So it is not going to be cheap. I don't know what the price is. Honestly, I haven't looked at the price. This was sent to me for review. I always disclose that. It was sent to me by Holybro for review. I have no idea what the price is. I'll give you an indication towards the end of this video what I think it should be worth. And then you can draw your own conclusions. But let's take a little bit of a look around this thing, because there's just so much gorgeosity on this thing. We need to take a look at each bit individually. Right, first let's start with the motors. These are pink. Yeah, interesting choice of colours, doesn't matter. I'm in touch with my feminine side, but most importantly, these are not a no-name, no-brand motor. Let's turn this around, you can see what they are. They're T-motors. It's the T-Motor Air 40, a 2450 kV motor, and these things are really good motors. I love these motors. They're not cheap. They are not cheap motors, but this isn't a cheap quad. These perform really well. I've seen some specs where it claims that these things can handle 600 watts or more, and if you've got 4 of them on a quad, that's 2400 watts. That's what they can handle. I don't think they're going to suck that much juice on this particular quad. In fact, I've done my flight test, quick first flight, and the maximum current I drew was just under 80 amps. I think it was 70 something amps. So they're drawing 20 amps a motor, and at 16 volts, that's 320 watts roughly. So they're operated well within the limits of the specification. So they're going to be reliable. We're not going to toast the motors. Doesn't matter how hard we hammer this thing. Another thing to notice is, look at that carbon. It is 5 millimeters thick, and it has chamfered corners. A lot of the carbon that you get on these quads, they have really sharp edges. You can actually cut yourself if you're not careful. On this one, on this frame, they've actually chamfered the corners, rounded the edges, so you're not going to cut yourself. But it's also important, because if we look further along the arm, if I can move this along without everything falling apart, you'll see that if I refocus, because I'm on manual focus to give you the best possible view, hopefully that's going to focus, there we go. You'll see the ESCs are mounted under the arms, and the wires just curl around the top of the frame there. Now that's, you know, maybe a little bit how you're going. There's no screening on that wire. It's not like the Wizard, which had that sort of like braided plastic around it to protect the wires. But there's probably no need to protect those wires, because the frame itself is beveled, and you can see the beveling really good there. So they're not going to wear out on the edge of that particular frame there. And this is a racing quad. Weight is important. The lighter the quad, the faster it accelerates, the tighter your turns. So they've obviously tried to keep the weight right down here. And I guess that's one of the things they've done in order to do that. So we've got 4 ESCs. I don't know, it says on the box probably what the ESCs are. In fact, the box has got a whole lot of really nice information, but I can't see it there. They're probably 20 to 30 amp ESCs. As I say, the maximum these motors is going to draw is 20 amps each. So 20 amp ESC would suffice, but I suspect they're probably 25 to 30 amps. Another thing you can see in here, which is kind of cool, and if I reach for my pen or my thing to point with, is look in here, look in the back here. I might have to, I'll focus this again, because I'm trying to get, I did a shot on, I did a review of this before, and it was crap because I kept holding the quad and moving it around. You couldn't see anything. Now, see this piece of pink in here? This is a metal bracket. This is a metal bracket, and this is the FPV antenna here. It's a metal bracket, and that metal bracket is attached very firmly to the 5mm frame underneath. So your FPV antenna is not going anywhere. It is one of the best, most secure FPV antenna mounts I have seen. It's not just a little tab on the edge of a plate that's going to break off with a decent prang. It's a piece of metal, folks, and it's bolted to 5mm carbon. That FPV antenna is not going anywhere. And that's great, because I don't know how many quads I've ended up breaking the antennas off where they mount onto the frame or whatever, or where they mount onto the FPV transmitter. This particular setup, the antenna has a little pigtail between, or the cable runs between here and the transmitter, so it's not going to rip it out of the transmitter or anything like that. Hey, that's pretty cool. This is the engineering I'm talking about. Notice that the screws on the top plate here are countersunk. There are pros and cons to that. I actually am not a great fan of countersinking because it takes away some of the strength. You've got, you're thinning out that plate. I prefer to have proud mounted screws because then you've got the full thickness of carbon under the head. Here you don't, so, but I guess it's not that important because there shouldn't be a lot of stress on this particular top plate. But let's move along a little bit. Let's see if I can move bits out of the way, keep things visible without jiggling around too much. And this is, honestly, this is a bit of a trial here. It's not really easy. Oh man, I haven't got, hold on, jump cut. This is what I wanted. Now this is the central section. It's got a stack as you would expect, and the stack consists of only 2 components in this stack. The bottom one is the Kakut or Kakute flight controller, F4 flight controller with separately mounted gyros and accelerometers, which means that you can hard mount the flight controller board itself because the important sensory bits are isolated by a little pad of foam. That means it's a really simple mount for the board itself. It's really good. Above that, we've got an FPV transmitter, and this is quite a cool transmitter. I mentioned that there's a pigtail off to that bracket, and this is that there. It doesn't have a micro FL connector or UFL connector. It's got a much more serviceable connector on there, which is designed for multiple insertions and removals, and that means that you know it is going to be more reliable and more robust. That's kind of good. Now, the interesting thing with this FPV transmitter is that there are no dip switches. There's no buttons. There's no readouts. And first of all, I thought, oh my goodness, how the hell do I change the channel? And that's something that's really kind of cool because you can actually change the video frequency, the video band, and the video power from your transmitter. This connects to the flight controller, and by using stick movements, you can set all those parameters because there's an OSD menu comes up in your goggles, and you can tweak and set and change everything you want without even touching the quad. You can take your quad out to the line, the launch point, come back, sit down, and then set your video channel. How cool is that? That's really cool. And this again, it's one of those cool little differences between an okay product and a fantastic product. Again, comparing to the Wizard 220, if you want to change out of the box, if you want to change the FPV frequency, you've got to take the top plate off. This is just like a dream by comparison. That's why this costs more. You get what you pay for. And look at this carbon. This is real carbon. There's no foam, there's no fiberglass. This is 100% pure carbon. You're going to have trouble breaking this frame. And here we are at the business end, the camera end of this quad. And it's not a no-name CMOS camera that's out of the back of, plucked out of a cornflakes packet as a free giveaway. It is a Runcam Swift Mini, and these are really, really good cameras. We know these are really good cameras. I use them all the time. It's CCD. It's got wide dynamic range. It's got uber low latency. It's just what you need in a racing quad. This one has a 2.3mm lens, and I plugged in the OSD because it does have the little OSD cable out the side there. See that? Plugged in the OSD. It was already set up pretty much perfect. I lifted the brilliance a little bit because I've been flying on a cloudy day, but the wide dynamic range was on. It was all set to go. It was brilliant. And of course, I didn't even have to get into the back of the camera to make those changes because it's a Runcam Swift Mini, and that has the little OSD extension. Oh, this is really good. And at the other end of the quad, we've got pretty standard stuff. We've got a buzzer for if you lose it in the long grass and low battery, all that sort of stuff. We've got some LEDs. I mean, yeah, I could do without them. FPV, I can't see those. Other people, if you're chasing you, perhaps they can see them. And it has all the little flashy patterns and things. Yeah, and you know, who cares? If you don't need it, don't worry about it. But if it's one of those things that's a buy or sell feature, hey, it's got it in spades. I don't really care. Now, another thing you'll notice here, and on manual focus, so this will be all blurry possibly, is that the camera, the antenna, let me pull out a bit because this is all a little bit close at the moment. Let me go out to here so you can see what I'm talking about. Maybe a little closer than that. Come on, there we go. Right, FPV transmitter antenna, as I said, metal bracket, brilliant, lovely, short, semi-rigid coax. But the really good thing is, look where it sits. It sits in line with the arms, with the motors. So you will not break this. There's no way you are going to impact this antenna with anything because it's protected by the arms. And the great thing is that when you're flying along at racing angle, the antenna is up at the right angle for a reasonably good propagation, reasonably good radiation pattern. It's well oriented to give you a nice strong signal. Oh, that's really cool. Now I'm often breaking the antennas on my quads, and I either break the antenna or I break the mount or whatever. This is probably going to last forever. This plastic cover here is uber tough. Hang on, I'll go back to automatic focus because this has probably been all blurry. This is uber tough stuff. You're not going to break that. And it's just protected. Oh, fantastic. What a great piece of engineering. It's solved that whole problem. Now, as you can see, it's very narrow and it's very squat. It has an underslung battery. That's really interesting because all the quads I've got with underslung batteries, they fly really well. I don't know what it is. Is it the low center of gravity? I don't know. It probably is, maybe. But I've got the Bolt 210, I've got the Shuriken X1, and I've got this, now the Kopis one. And with the underslung batteries, they're such nice handling quads. So I'm thinking the low CG is important. And also, this also explains why we've got all this stuff squished in the middle. If you have a quad with the mass centralized as much as possible, then it's much faster in roll and pitch because there's more leverage. You've got your arms leveraging on all this weight in the middle. If you have your weight out on the ends, then it's like way hard to shift it. So the idea to have a really maneuverable quad is to keep the mass centralized. Having an underslung battery there, having everything sitting there, that does the job. That explains probably why this is such a really nice to fly quad. I've only had one flight FPV, but it just struck me, whoa, this thing handles so nicely. Now you might think, this looks okay. Where do you put your camera? Where does your GoPro go? Where do you put your run cam? Well, they provide some accessories with this thing. One of the accessories is this. This is the GoPro Session / Run Cam 3 mount. Notice it's got some little tabs in the bottom there, on the bottom of this mount. They slot into the slots on the carbon fiber top frame here, and voila. Oops, if I get it in, because here we go. There we go. Voila, that's firmly mounted. That's going nowhere. And you hold it on with a couple of cable ties. Cable ties hold it to there. Battery strap goes through that slot. And there's no protection for your run cam or your session, but meh, you've got to keep the weight down. It's a racing quad. So low weight means you don't have all sorts of unnecessary bits of plastic and whatever around your camera. So, you know, that's it. If you want to protect your GoPro, you might have to build something yourself. But if you want the fastest possible performance, this is how you get it. This piece of plastic weighs nothing. So yeah, happy, joy. Now, there is one aspect of this I thought this could be a problem. If you look at this thing here, look how the props and the field of view of the camera, obviously those props are going to be right in the field of view. And because they're so close together, I was thinking, ooh, this is going to be interesting because when I'm flying along, I have these big flat planes of prop in front of me. Will I be able to see anything? And I thought maybe that's why they're using transparent props, so as to reduce the effect of this prop disc right in the middle of your camera frame. And fortunately, my concerns were unfounded. As you can see from this video footage, this FPV footage, which was recorded on the DVR, those prop discs really don't make too much difference. I was so focused on flying, it didn't even register in my brain that the prop discs were there after the first couple of seconds. What it would be like with coloured props, however, I don't know. And what it would be like on a sunny day, where we might be getting quite bad reflections off those props at some angles, I also don't know. So what I'm going to do is, there'll be a part 2 to this video, because I really, as I say, one FPV flight is not enough to really determine, you know, the pros and cons of flight characteristics. So I'll be doing another video, which will be all flight test video. There'll be all, you know, my thoughts on how this thing handles, and I'll put it through its paces, but the weather's not suitable for that at the moment, so I can't do that. So yeah, but that one thing, the downside I thought would be there, so far doesn't appear to be an issue. And of course, no review would be complete without using the scales that don't show the blood, kindly donated by a viewer, who I thank very much. How much does this thing weigh? Well, on the box it says 300 grams. And as we know, sometimes the manufacturers are a little bit optimistic. So let's put it on here and see what the scales say. 313 grams. Oh my God, why is that? Well, I'll tell you why that is, because the on the box weight doesn't include the receiver or the little antenna cable ties or the heat shrink. So I'm thinking they're 300 grams. That's pretty damn close. That's pretty honest. A pretty honest weight on the box. The 300 grams, you know, that's a nice light quad. I'll get some of my other quads and we'll put them on here and we'll just do a comparison. It's not the lightest, I don't think, but let's have a comparison. So this is the Kopis one, let's say 312 grams. Here is the Bolt 210, 347. Ooh, that's a bit heavier, isn't it? Here is my X-Hover, what is it, I can't remember, the X-Hover, which is a very reasonably light quad, 348. Oh my God, this is really a light quad. This is a very light quad, which means when you come to those turns, it's going to go around the corners faster because there's less mass to change the direction of, less inertia, less momentum. ooh, I think this is going to be a real contender on the track. Now, you might say, yeah, but if you want a really good quad, build it yourself. Buy the parts, buy the frame, put it all together, then you know the quality, you know how it's built, you know all the other stuff. To which I would say, yeah, that's fine. That's a really good idea. I build most of my own quads, and I like building them, and it's great. But we've got to realise there are people out there who don't have the time to build their own quads, may not even have the necessary skills or patience to do it. And they might want to buy a quad that is going to be really fast and it's going to be top quality. If that's what they're looking for, I've got to say at this stage, flight tests yet to be done, but I've got to say this is looking like a real kick-ass. And I actually didn't compare it to the original Shuriken, did I? So let's put the Shuriken on here, which is the other, and this one's really dirty because it's so good. Here we go, the Shuriken X1. What does that weigh in at? 3. So yeah, obviously weight saving. This is, you know, I don't know, you have to tie that down on a windy day, it'll blow away. It's light as. Fantastic. So I'm happy with that. That is really, really good. So that's enough for this review, or this part of the review. I hope I've covered most of the topics you might want to know about this thing, giving you a close look at the bits and pieces. And I'll leave you with a bit more of the flight footage that I took on my one and only flight. Actually, I had 2 flights. I don't think well, one was very short because I used the Hobby King nanotech batteries and they just didn't hold up. The graphene's much better. So there you go. Questions, comments in the usual place, please. I'll do my best to answer them. In the meantime, thank you, Holybro. This is, oh man, oh no, I'm standing in a puddle of drool again. Never mind. It goes on the wall of pride along with the Bolt 210 and the Shuriken X1. And to be honest, this is a high scorer too. This is the X-Hover. I like this. This is good. This has got the run cam splitter. But anyway, I digress. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Exciting flight footage to come in the next part. Bye for now. Oh, by the way, don't forget, thumbs up if you like the review. Thumbs up if you don't like it. How's that? And I'll put a link in the description to the Holybro website. As I say, this was provided for review. I did not pay for this. I'm not a shill for Holybro though. If this was crap, I would have told you. And I'll also put a link to my Patreon page. I thank my Patreon supporters for their invaluable support on this channel. And I should point out that the Patreon subscribers or Patreon supporters got to see a little bit of this in advance, as they do sometimes with products, because they've got to get something for their money, don't they? G'day, bit of a late update here. I took the Kopis one out for a bit more of a fly. I put the RunCam 3 on the top using the mount, and I gave it heaps. And as you will see in the video, our pilot error produced a rather impressive crash actually at quite a bit of speed coming out of a power loop. I just misjudged it. The extra weight of the RunCam was enough to cause me to be a little bit low on the exit of the power loop, and whack, it took quite a while to find the quad. The battery was about 20 meters away, a couple of prop blades bent, motors caked with, look, here we go, this is the post-mortem here. Right, so here is the Kopis one after that little crash, and you'll notice there's actually no structural damage. There's a lot of dirt in the motors, and in fact the whole thing's pretty damn dirty now. The RunCam 3, the cable ties that hold the mount on broke off, so that just flopped, and it still works, still goes. Got a bit of fog in it because we're sitting on the wet grass for a while. And the battery was about 20 meters away from the quad. It was such an impressive impact. But because these graphene batteries have fiberglass plates on them, the battery wasn't damaged in any way, so that's still good. So it passed the crash test with flying colours. And now I'll clean the motors up and get the dirt off and straighten the props and try and get some more flying in. But I've cleaned the mud out, wiped it off the props, sorted it up. It flies beautiful, wonderful. Here it is, a bit of FPV footage. Now, one thing I noticed with the FPV footage, I mentioned earlier in this video that this antenna was at a good angle to be protected and provide good propagation, but I forgot that with the RunCam 3 on the top here and with the battery on the bottom, when you're flying towards yourself, it's actually quite shielded, even if you're on a bit of an angle, because I haven't got the RunCam on here at the moment, but with the RunCam right up here, it tends to block the signal. So I was getting quite a bit of flashing. Now the channel I was using today does have interference here in this location. You get quite a lot of lines and things. So I'm going to have to do a bit more flying and just make sure that this antenna, I'm not sure if it's the antenna or whether it's the positioning, but I was getting a lot of flickering and dropouts and things. So I'm thinking maybe I'll try this with a pagoda and see how it goes, but this may have a big null point on this antenna. It is quite small for a cloverleaf. There may be a null point on here, and I'll need to investigate that further, but I don't think it's anything that can't be pretty quickly righted if there is a problem. But as I say, this survived the crash test perfectly. It was a real whack, and the damn thing still flies perfectly, so yay. Certainly it is a tough quad, as I thought. 5mm arms, gee, you're not going to break those. There you go. So now I will say thank you for watching. Catch you later. Bye for now.